All right, so the flexible budget is pretty cool because you can set a budget for any level of output. So in this case, we are preparing a budget for 3,500, 4,000, and 4,500. So you get a per unit cost, and that way you can say, okay, and once I get my per unit cost, then I can compare it when I figure out how many I actually made to what it should have cost me. So it's a pretty neat concept when you think about it. And so what we're going to do is we have our per unit costs here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and figure out what it should have cost me. So let me go ahead and open up my Excel, and I'm going to just lay out my flexible budget here. So I have direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, and then fixed overhead. And then I have it for 3,500 units, 4,000 units, and 4,500 units. So direct materials is $14 a unit. Direct labor is $27. Variable overhead is $1.80. And fixed overhead is just a flat 6,800. We're not allocating that per unit. Oops, let me actually move these up a little bit. There we go. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take the 14 times 3,500, and I'm going to take the 27 times 3,500, just like that. Okay. So that's my cost at 3,500. This is my cost at 4,000. Oops. And this is my cost at 4,500. This is what it should be. And then you can just go ahead and compare what to what you actually had when you produced maybe 4,000 or however many you did. So the other question was, what is the per unit cost for each of these? Well, that's not so bad. All I'm going to do is take this and divide it by that. So 3,500 units, it's 4,474. At 4,000, it's 4,450. And at 4,500, it's 4,431. The reason is because of my fixed cost. That does not change per unit. So the more units I make, the lower my cost is going to be. So for this one, I'm going to compare my budgeted results with my actual results. So we have actual output of 93,000 direct labor hours, and then we have our various other expenses here. So again, what I want to do is go ahead and set up my Excel, and here's the additional information that you're going to need. So I'm going to set up my direct labor, and then I have my variable overhead, and that includes maintenance, power, indirect labor, and rent. Okay. So then I have my actual results, and I'm going to compare that to what it should have been. And then I get to do my variance. Okay. So my direct labor hours, my actual ones, I think they said were 93,000. So let me just make sure. So 93,000 in direct labor hours. And I need to figure out what my budgeted should be. So I'm going to take a look at my flexible budget and see what it would be per unit. So it looks like, if you look here, it looks like we do expect production to require 90,000 hours. However, when you look down, the 93,000 direct labor hours are at standard. So I'm going to go ahead and put 93,000 because it just says it was. Okay, so let's get rid of that for a second. So we have no variance. Let's go ahead and talk about our maintenance. So it said our actual maintenance was 107,000. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our variable overhead per unit and figure out what it should have been. There are two components to what it should have been. One is our total fixed cost, and then one is our variable. So I'm going to take our 93,000 hours and multiply it by our 0.20 for direct labor hours. So that's our fixed portion, and then we have our variable portion, and then we have a fixed portion of 86,000. So it should have been 104,600. So we have a unfavorable variance of 2,400 here. So let's take a look at our power. So our actual power in this problem, our actual power cost was 41,200. And let's take a look at what it should have been. So it looks like there's no fixed component to this. So it's just going to be our 93,000 times 0.45. So 41,850. So we have a $650 favorable variance for power. Let's take a look at indirect labor. So our indirect labor, our actual cost was 336,000. So should have been, we've got two components here, a fixed and a variable portion. So 93,000 times 210. 195,300 is our variable plus our fixed of 140,000. So 335,300. So we have an unfavorable variance here of 700. And finally, let's go to rent. So rent was, our actual cost was, or our budgeted cost was 35,000. And actual cost was 35,000. So we don't have any variance here. Okay. All right, let's take a look at, the next one. So we are looking at variable overhead variances, number 34. Okay, so in this one, we want the standard hours for actual deliveries made this year. And we have deliveries made, which was 38,600. And our labor standard requires 0.8 hours per delivery. So if we do the math on that one, 38,600 times 0.8. So we should have 30,880 direct labor hours for that. All right, so then the second part of this is to do the variable overhead spending and efficiency variances. So let's take a look at that. Now, when we are doing our actual overhead variance and our budgeted and our applied, we're going to need to use those formulas. So in this case, we're going to take our overhead rate of 510 and we're going to multiply it by the number of direct labor hours on our budget to get our budgeted number. So 31,000 times our 510 budget. So 158,100. Now, what did we actually spend? We actually spent 157,700. So we have a favorable variance here of 400. Let's take a look at the efficiency variance here for a second. All right, so in this case, we are going to take our deliveries made, 38,600, and multiply it by that 0.8. We already did that, but so we've got 30,880 hours, and again, we're going to apply it to our 510 per hour. So 157,488, and then when we subtract our budgeted, which was our 31,000 times 510 minus 57, we have an unfavorable variance of 612.